Look, I don't know what kind of voodoo, dark magic, crazy sorcery shit the Duffers are dealing in, because there is no way this season should have been as close as humanly possible to perfection. And yet it was. Sorcery, I'm telling you. Hi guys, Carla here. I'm filming this on Halloween, so happy Halloween. I'm not wearing a costume, but I've got my Dustin hat on, so I'm ready to go. Last weekend, the second season of Stranger Things premiered on Netflix, and I binge watched it in a watch party with my brother's girlfriend and my cousin, or, you know, at least most of it, because they had to leave around the 7th episode because it was getting late. But then I kept watching, so I binge watched through the whole thing in one day. And now I'm here to review it, and this is going to be a freaking long ass video, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start right away without any intro. I'm gonna talk about everything. There will be spoilers, you have been warned.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
So, I want to start by mentioning the production values and the effects. And the first thing that really hit me, and this really had been hitting me all the way since the trailer started coming out. I mean, for fuck's sake, they debuted a trailer at the Super Bowl. If that doesn't say, holy shit, we got more money this time around, I don't know what does. Like, just seeing the marketing campaign, seeing the ramping up of the marketing as we got closer and closer and closer, it was kind of spectacular, because it felt like they were promoting a movie almost, but it was a TV show. TV shows don't get that kind of promotion, guys. So yeah, it was definitely clear. And as soon as I started watching too, I mean, the scene that opens up is in a city, and it looks like something out of a police thriller. It immediately, like, straight away, you're like, okay, they got my money this time around, especially given the special effects on that scene. I mean, the whole thing with the bridge was just, wow. I love that. And then you get to Hawkins and the kids are in the arcade, and you're like, yep, definitely bigger budget. They built a freaking arcade, like, so that was the first thing that hit my mind. As far as the effects go, I've said this before in breakdowns of the trailers, the shadow monster looked amazing! I loved it so much. I think there were a few scenes where the demo dogs looked a little bit iffy, but for the most part, the effects I thought were really fucking awesome. I have no complaints this time around. And I really feel like the whole theme of the 80s was just sort of like pushed up a notch this time around, because it wasn't just the same corner in Hawkins by the police station that we saw every single time. It felt like a town. It felt like there was more to it than just that one corner and Mike's house. I mean, we got to see Dustin's place, we got to see Max's place, we got to see Lucas's place, we got to see the cabin in the woods, and there was just so much more, and I felt like it all seemed very 80s, more than the first time around. Because for the first time around, what gave me the 80s references really was just how small the town felt, and the train tracks, especially because it reminded me so much of movies from my childhood. But this time it wasn't so much the reference, it was the actual production this time. It felt like they were in the 80s without looking costumey as well. So kudos for that, I really loved it. About the cinematography, I don't know, I felt like this season was a little bit more confined. I mean, other than the pumpkin patches, we didn't really get many scenes outdoors. There weren't many outdoor settings. I don't know if it's just because I missed the quarry set or something, but I really felt like we spent so much time inside that kind of bugged me a little bit. But, you know, even then, it's a minor quibble. I love the scenes in the big city though, especially just scenes of Eleven arriving at the big city and just discovering that there's this huge, brand new to her, big world all around her. It gave me feels, because I can only imagine how it feels. Like, I've been to cities bigger than my own, and I do sort of feel that wonder when I see them, so I could understand that, and I really enjoyed that part. As far as the pacing goes, I think the first 4 episodes felt really long to me. I remember my cousin asking me, like, somewhere in episode 2 or something, he's like, wait, how long has this episode been? It's really long. And I do think that the lengths of the episodes were a little bit unevenly distributed, because they had to, finish on a cliffhanger. It really felt like, look at my watch to see how much time it's left, long. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't like them, because I felt like the scenes were so much more interpersonal than plot-driven, in a sense. So I feel like they were needed, because they gave us some insight into these characters. Like, even if I could cut stuff out, I wouldn't even know what to cut, because I liked everything. So even though it felt a little long, I loved them. So it's really not a complaint, it's just sort of a note that I'd like to make. I was reading reviews before the season came out. I like to read reviews for stuff that I'm really excited about. And Stranger Things 2 reviews were generally pretty positive, but I noticed that there was much ado made about the whole episode 7 thing and how the episode sort of broke the flow of everything. But you know what? I actually really liked it. And I mean, I understand that it sort of takes us elsewhere right at the point where there was this huge cliffhanger, and a lot of people didn't like that. I can understand how a lot of people didn't like that, but I enjoyed it. I thought 11 needed to go on the journey. I thought the episode was very well shot. It had some of my favorite scenes of the season, and I think it was an important point to be made, so I would never be like, oh no, just eliminate it altogether. No, I liked it. Maybe I would have found a way to make it flow a little better, like maybe have 11, I don't even know, because I don't know that I would change anything from the beginning of the season. I was gonna say that maybe have 11 leave a little bit earlier, so that it doesn't take all the way until episode 7 for her to get to the city. But I don't think so either, because I wouldn't change anything from the first few episodes, and I think you needed those scenes with 11 and Hopper. I think you needed those scenes with 11 and Terry, and then episode 7 could be its own thing. So I don't know, I really liked it. I definitely know that it's divisive, but I was a-okay with it. I love that episode. As far as the plot lines go, I have mentioned before that one of my favorite things about Stranger Things Season 1 is that all these apparently separate plot lines, like the adults and the teenagers and then the kids in 11, all those sort of came together really neatly in episode 7 of Season 1. It's one of the reasons why I loved Season 1. I think doing something like that is really freaking difficult, and I thought the Duffer Brothers it just blew my mind how neatly it all fit together, how they plotted it so that everything would converge on that one episode. And they did it again. It happened again. It's probably why episode 8 is my favorite episode of the season. Also because the ending of that episode killed me. But it just, the way that it all came together, I really, really, really loved. This time around it was a little less sciencey than the first season, so that would be one reason why I would put the Season 1 Convergence over the Season 2 Convergence. But I loved both of them. Even though Season 2 didn't have as much science, it was more like just brainstorming between the kids and the adults about D&D stuff, and there wasn't as much science to it, but I really, really enjoyed it. Also, I don't know, hive minds are kind of my thing when it comes to sci-fi. Like, hive minds are my favorite thing. Hive minds and complementation, human complementation, just group things, group minds of any sort are very, very much my favorite sci-fi trope of all time. I've mentioned 80,000 times already, one of my favorite pieces of fiction of all time, if not my favorite, is Neon Genesis Evangelion, and that is all about reaching, instrumentality with when all the beings, all the souls of all human beings become one thing. Like all individuality is lost to this sort of giant hive mind type thing. And I love that. And Evangelion got that from another one of my favorites, which is Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, the book. I love that book. Again, it's a big hive mind type thing that I just loved, and I was so excited the first time hive minds were just mentioned. I was like, yes, thank you, Duffers. I've been waiting for this for such a long time, because it doesn't get as much use these days as it used to in the past, because now the concept is tired or whatever. And all these superhero movies where there's one big bad that controls all the little big bads, and then if you kill the big bad, then all the little big bads die. It has now sort of become a cliche, and I do mind it when all the little bad guys are like too easy to kill, I guess. But I do like the concept of a hive mind, and I was really, really excited when I heard it in Stranger Things. Big brownie points for that. The main plot, the whole Will thing and the Shadow Monster thing was incredible. When I was speculating, I thought that Will might like physically transform into a monster of some sort, but turns out he didn't. He was essentially possessed. And I thought that was amazing, because you could just see the influence of, say, The Exorcist. I remember sitting there and telling my cousin and my brother's girlfriend, oh my god, this show has now become The Exorcist, and it is amazing. You could see it was very noticeable, and what I loved was that I wasn't expecting it, and it felt so very different from the plot of season 1, because season 1 everybody was searching for Will. In this one it was like, Will is right here with us, except he's not Will, and it's this rush to try to get this thing out of him, and I just loved it so much. It also was a lot scarier, I guess, because, having a monster tracking you down is scary, but having a monster inside you is 1,000 times scarier, just saying. The subplot with the kids and Steve was really fun, even if I kept screaming at Dustin the entire time that he was going to get his face eaten off. Like, seriously, that was my status quo for like 6 out of the 9 episodes. It was just me screaming at the screen that Dustin was going to get eaten. 11's subplot was, God, it was so absolutely devastating. All those feels that we have for 11 the first season, it was like multiply them by 1,000. I loved that it was all a quest for her to find a real home, a real place where she belongs, and it taking her to her mother and to her fellow Hawkins lab experiments, and then it coming full circle and bringing her back to Hawkins, to Hopper and her friends. It meant so much to me, because now it feels like 11 has a place where she belongs, and she had to suffer so much to get to this point, and it's really heartwarming to know that it was such an incredibly difficult journey for her. She's just a kid, but now she made it. She did what she had to do. She learned what she had to learn, and now she's home. And I can't say that she's safe, because I know there will be a 3rd season and there's the monster hanging out on top of the gym and stuff, but it's good to see that she has a family, she has a place where she belongs, whereas before she was just a lab rat, and it's just so great. But most of all, I just loved every bit of her interaction with Hopper. That was one of my favorite aspects of the season, and they were just so great. In fact, before I went in to watch this season, there were 4 things that I told myself I need to get in season 2. There are 4 things that I need to see this season, and if I get all 4 of them, I will be satisfied. And those 4 things were, well, first, the whole Mike and 11 thing. I wanted to see them, like Mike trying to look for her, and I wanted to see 11 pining for Mike, and I wanted to see a damn good reunion between the two of them. The second thing was Ellie Harper, because I was absolutely convinced that Harper was going to be hiding her. As you know, I've said it like 700 times. Even from just the very first video about Stranger Things that I did, that was my review for season 1. Even then, I was like, no, Harper and Eleven have to be a couple. So I needed to see that. I also needed Jonathan and Nancy to get together, because really, there was no reason for them not to get together in season 1, and I wanted that. And number 4, which was a more recent one, with the last trailer and such, I just wanted to see a lot of Steve and Dustin hanging out together, because they seemed so much fun. So as long as I had those 4 things, I would be satisfied, and I got those 4 things. And one of my favorites was just the whole interaction between Hopper and Elle. It was so great, so emotional, and I just love them both. And I just think about them, I want to cry. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid, but it just, I love them so much. The only subplot that I feel didn't quite mesh as well when it came to episode 8, for example, because all the subplots just come together at that one point with they're at the lab. But the only subplot that I felt didn't go as smoothly was the Nancy and Jonathan subplot, which, don't get me wrong, I liked it. I liked that they went there. I liked that they had Nancy dealing with her grief about losing Barb, and I liked that they took initiative and decided to take down the lab just in revenge. I really enjoyed that, but I felt that by the time they met up with the others in episode 8, that storyline was over. There was no reason for them to actually be in the lab other than they were looking for Will and Mike, and it's like they didn't have anything else to add to the situation after that. So I felt like that was the one that was a bit weaker, simply because it didn't fit as well with the others. But I still liked it. I mean, it just felt a little bit unconnected to me. My only other complaint plot-wise would be that splitting the plot in this type of way also left Mike with very little to do at the beginning of the season. Like, basically he was just moping and trying to find Eleven, snapping at everybody, and I thought it was great that he was hanging out with Will all the time, because I wanted to see more of Will and Mike's friendship. I've said this 1,000 times and I loved it. But yeah, it didn't really give Mike much to do, like much to contribute to the plot, I guess. It wasn't until later that we began to see more from him and being more involved in that kind of way. By the way, I wasn't expecting the demo dogs at all. Like, I knew from the trailers that they were going to be fighting something. I just thought it would be like possessed Will or monster Will or something, but I didn't think they were going to bring back the idea of a Demogorgon. I didn't think they were going to just come up with a different demo monster. But I thought it was really interesting, and I thought Netflix did a great job of keeping that surprise contained. I thought they were really creepy, really menacing. It's a little bit more than the Demogorgon, because the Demogorgon sort of fell in the uncanny valley a little bit for humans, but it looked anthropomorphic, right? So it wasn't as scary in my head. But the demo dogs reminded me a little bit more of like wolves or coyotes or things that prowl than the Demogorgon did. So I actually quite like the idea of demo dogs. So now let's talk a little bit about the characters, which is going to be sort of the meat of this video. It's the longest because I need to talk about everybody. I will start with my favorite, which is my baby Mike. God, his pining for Elle and being all emo and like snippy with people, it just about killed me, because God, he was so sad. He was so sad, and I just wanted him to be happy, you guys. But it really made sense that he would like all of a sudden be this rebellious and this sullen, because he went through a really powerful thing the previous year, and he lost someone very important to him the previous year. So I can totally see that happen. And I know that people like to joke about it and call him emo Mike and whatever. He has every right to be emo, okay? He's hurting. Let him hurt in peace, damn it. And I loved his friendship with Will so much. I'm sorry, I have to pull Scooby because I need something to hug. I loved his friendship with Will so much. Like I said, I needed to see that this season. I really wanted to see more of that. And I also feel like Will's plot, the whole thing with the monsters, sort of brought back Mike's leader of the party attitude, just his behavior, where he's basically the leader of his little group of friends, and he values their friendship above everything, and he will do anything in order to help any of them and protect his friends at all costs. So while that aspect of his personality is a little bit fueling his rage and his sadness and his disappointment because he couldn't save 11, at the same time it also brings out the best of him when it comes to helping Will. And I really loved his scenes. He even get a few moments to shine, like later on in the season, when he's the one that's putting two and two together with a ton of stuff. Like, for example, he's the one that figures out that Will is the spy. He's the one, because this is funny, I spent like 3 episodes after the shadow monster was revealed, and it was revealed that it was possessing Will. I spent like 3 episodes just going, you can't kill this thing. If you kill it, it's going to kill Will. You have to do something about it, because it seemed like nobody had thought of that possibility. And I was like, do you not watch movies? What is wrong with you? And Mike in episode 8, I believe, was the one who finally figured out, hey, if this is a hive mind, killing this thing is going to kill Will, so we have to get it out of Will first. And I cheered. My son is a freaking genius, you guys. He is a genius. I love him. And just acting wise, Finn was incredible. Mind blown. Like, he's gotten so much. He was good in season 1. He's like 10 times better this season. And did you see how many emotions crossed his face when he sees 11 for the first time? Oh! It was so beautiful! Ah! So many emotions! Not in me, well, yes in me, but also in him. I mean, how, guys? How? Like, you can see him walk up to her, and first he's like really freaking shocked that she's there, and then he's like really confused that how did this happen, and then you can just sort of see him start to, like, the relief just flow out of him, and then he smiles, and I'm freaking sobbing into my plushie. How? Just how? He basically broke me. That scene broke me. I will repeat this 100 times through this review. That scene broke me. That is all. Damn, now I feel like crying again. As far as Will is concerned, I told you this before, I said, this kid is going to be the season's MVP. And I was absolutely right. There were so many moments when I was just like, what? I was so in awe of his performance. He acts like he's 57 years old and has learned all the tricks of the trade and has won 7 Emmys and 4 Oscars, and he's freaking Daniel Day-Lewis at 13! You guys! What the hell? Check my Twitter, I'm sure I mentioned this over and over and over, because every few episodes I was like, what is this kid? This is amazing. My favorites were his scene when he's talking to Joyce and he's crying. And I'm just sitting here like, how? How is he this good? And then his scenes toward the end when he's possessed and he manages to, like, flick between real Will and possessed Will in what seems like the blink of an eye, and I'm just sitting there like, how? It's so incredible. I mean, he was like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, except that with Linda Blair, she kind of terrified me, so I was like, okay, if you have to kill her, just get her out of my sight. But with Will, even when he was possessed, all I was thinking was, oh god, Will is still in there, someone please save him. Because I felt so much for him in a way that I never felt for Linda Blair's character in The Exorcist. So, you know what? This kid doesn't get an Emmy nomination next year, I will be fucking pissed. I'm just warning you. I will be fucking pissed. So, TV Academy, better get started on that. About 11, I mean, Millie is so good. I can't. She's so good. And I love that they gave 11 this sort of self-discovery storyline. But more than anything, I love that they had her kind of navigating what it is to suddenly have a family with all the support and all the limitations that entails. I mean, you can't just do whatever you want. You have to be considerate to the other families, and there are rules that you have to follow. And meanwhile, everything was happening. They're also sort of exploring what it would be like to be a teenager with superpowers, and sort of go in this discovery of how she should channel them properly. What is the right way to channel her powers? And it was such a complex storyline, and it had so many layers, and Millie just knocked it out of the park. I'm so awed by her. One of my favorite things in this season was actually how the way she speaks evolved from the first season, because in the first season she had so few lines, and she didn't have as much interaction, but she had more this time around. So she spoke more this time around. She used more complete sentences, but at the same time you could tell that she was still learning. Learning through the TV, through books, through just her interactions with Hopper. And I love that Hopper didn't treat her like she was a dumb child who had to be talked down to. He actually treated her, as a person, and would negotiate with her and try to come to a compromise. And I just really love that. And she's such a quick learner, and I love that she is, because it shows how smart and how capable she is, and how isolated she's been her whole life. Oh, I just love her! Ugh. One of my favorite things was the ending, when she closes down the gate. Guys, she basically becomes Jean Grey. And I know I said this in season 1, when I reviewed season 1, was that I felt that there were not enough Jean Grey references when it came to 11. She basically became Jean Grey in that last episode. Like, holy fuck, guys, she flew. She levitated herself. How cool is that? It was straight out of an X-Men comic. It was so cool, and I seriously need these characters to actually start referring to her more as Jean Grey and throw in more Jean Grey references, because she is so cool. 11, not Jean Grey. I mean, Jean is cool. She can be cool, but I like 11 better. And I love the references, because I love the X-Men, so I want to see that. It did, however, seem like a bit of a stretch that this girl who has spent 12 years of her life locked inside a lab, and then one more year hiding in a cabin in the woods, suddenly can be so comfortable with and savvy using the inner city transportation system. And this is like way before the age of smartphones. So I thought that was a bit of a stretch. Like, how did she learn that? She's never been outside in her life. Like, was that just me? I don't know. Hopper, my man! Welcome back to parenthood. How's celibacy treating you? Somehow, and it's black magic, I'm telling you. Hopper's arc this season managed to be even better than his arc in the first season, which I did not think was possible. I did not think that was possible. My favorite part was just his entire relationship with 11, because I loved it, because neither of them is perfect, and Hopper didn't want another kid, and he didn't want to replace his daughter, and 11 had never had a family, and their personalities clashed so much because they're not used to being with, people and all the time, but at the same time you can tell they care about each other. And it's so beautiful. I'm crying again. It's so cool. I love it so much. And I love that Hopper was definitely absolutely investigating something on his own, just like I assumed he would. I love that he went down into the tunnels, which is kind of funny because in season 1, Nancy went into the Upside Down, and I was so pissed because I was like, Nancy, that is so stupid. But Hopper's like, you know, the chief of police, so he should. And just throughout this whole thing, he was also still trying to help Joyce with everything, and still trying to make it home for his kid, and he was juggling so many things, and can I just love him forever? Like, Jim Hopper's my freaking hero, you guys. This dude is on another level. I love him so much. And his dorky dad dancing, though. So much fun. It's become like a whole meme now, and there's this amazing Twitter account called @HopperDancing2, which just takes that one scene and just swaps out the music. So in the end you get stuff like Hopper dancing to Asereje, or Hopper dancing to the Pokemon theme song, and it's just ridiculous and amazing, and I love it. So please, if you're on Twitter, be sure to check that account out. It's @HopperDancing2. It's amazing. And just by the end, when he tells Lemon that he's a black hole, I'm just like, oh god, he deserves everything good and bright and warm in this world, because he's so not a black hole. He's gravity. He keeps everybody where they need to be, and he protects his people from like flying away and getting lost in space, and he's the one that gives us an atmosphere that nurtures us. And yes, sometimes he can pull a little too hard, but they manage to find the balance, that center of mass, and things just work out. And I don't even know where I'm going with this analogy anymore. I just know that I love him so much. As far as Joyce goes, it was fun not to see her hysterical all the time, and you know, get to see her get to have a bit of a life even apart from the children, though, you know, not by much. Soon enough she's being hysterical all over again, but it was cool, just to see her have something outside of her kids. Sooner rather than later she goes back to being little hysterical Joyce, and I love it. I mean, that's what made me love her in the first place, so I'm not opposed to it. I do have to say though that my favorite Joyce scene in this season was in the cabin when they were trying to get the monster out of Will, and holy shit, she was badass. She was so badass, and I love that she didn't let her own emotions and seeing her son in pain just cloud her judgment, and she knew that she needed to push harder to get that fucking thing the hell out of him right then and there, and she was gonna do it even if it hurt Will. I thought it was amazing. I mean, it was very Sarah Connor of her. I loved it. As far as Bob goes, I mean, seeing Sean Astin as a dweeby, tech-obsessed everyman, it's just great. Perfect casting is perfect. What can I say? And, you know, at the beginning, Bob annoyed me a little bit, mostly because of his encouragement to Will to stand up against the monster. Probably because, you know, you just knew it wasn't going to turn out well, and indeed it didn't. But Bob grew on me. I mean, when I saw how much he truly cared for Joyce and the kids. I mean, he was able to take all the crazy that got thrown at him and actually process it in a supportive way. I mean, he really did love her, man. And I was very happy to see that. He grew on me a lot. I also loved that they gave him something important to do. And it wasn't just him, like, being shoehorned in there because Joyce needed a boyfriend. He discovered the map. He was the only one who freaking knew basic. I mean, by the end, he was basically Bob Newby superhero, even though that's kind of a dorky name. But that said, he was just too good to live. Heck, Bob Newby is basically the poster boy for the too good to live trope. I saw it coming because I kind of knew that they weren't about to kill any of the main characters. Although I have to say, to be honest, I was a little bit worried about Will for a while there, but still, I didn't think they were actually going to do it. So they have to have stakes somehow. I figured he would be the best character to actually kill off, so I was kind of expecting it. I don't know, I see people on Twitter already sort of brandishing the whole #JusticeForBob thing. And I don't know, I can't help but think that, you know, they're completely different situations with the Barb thing. Because my problem with Barb was not so much an emotional problem, it was an intellectual problem. Because Barb was basically used as a plot device. She was there, we knew, because we were informed that she was Nancy's friend, and then she died, and then she became the catalyst for Nancy's arc, basically. And you know, as a writer, that annoyed me because it's like, okay, you introduce a character and you don't really give her much of anything to work with. She's just there to die, and I don't like that. But as a fan, I never grew attached to Barb the way so many people seem to have. I feel like there wasn't much to her to get attached to, so I never cared. My problem with her was a writing problem. Bob, though, Bob was used to move the plot forward while still being a fully fledged character. Like, he had intellectual and emotional reasons to be there. And that's why I think his arc this season was great, and I wouldn't change anything. I don't think he needs justice. I think that would cheapen his sacrifice. And he went out like a hero, so why would you want justice for Bob? The lab is closed. That's his justice. Like, I don't get it. Ugh! Bob, you should have run, though. You should have. Why didn't you just stand there? Has no character in this show ever watched a movie? God! Then there was Owens, and you know, it's funny, up until the last minute, I was still expecting Owens to turn out to be evil. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Paul Reiser's performance, and I like that for once these people actually got someone in a relatively high position to actually help them, instead of manipulating them. But I kept waiting for a twist that never came, and I don't know how that makes me feel yet. I'm not sure. And then after that, like, even when he saved them in the lab, then I kept waiting for him to die. Which is weird. I was so sure he was gonna die. But then I'm glad he didn't, because the certificate, it was a really big deal for me. I will talk about that later. But, you know, it did bother me that the fact that he didn't die and was only sort of like lightly wounded and left in a place where Hopper and Eleven could conveniently find him. It's just a little bit too convenient, if you get what I mean. And, you know, why didn't the demo dogs absolutely destroy him like they did Bob? It was weird. As far as Nancy goes, she was okay. I like that they addressed her grief about Barb. I like that they gave her a chance to actually do something for Barb's family. I really enjoyed that. As far as Jonathan goes, he didn't really get much to do other than like drive Nancy around and eventually hook up with her. But I like that he seemed a little bit more open this season. I don't know if that's just my interpretation of it, but he just seemed a little bit more carefree, not as secluded, I guess, or self-secluded, I guess. It was nice to see. Then there's Steve, and yo, I really like Steve now. I'm just saying, like, I didn't care much for Steve after season 1, because yeah, even though he had a nice arc and he got his redemption, I felt he still was a little bit douchey, and I didn't like that, and I didn't understand why Nancy would choose him over Jonathan. But Steve has grown so much. He genuinely just fell in love with Nancy for the first time. He's not just a player anymore. And he's become less of a douche, even though he's still got like the swagger and the hair and the whole popular bad boy thing. But they really managed to straddle that line between confident and jerk really well with him. And his bromance with Dustin is the actual best. Guys, I love them so much. Speaking of Dustin, I feel like if this had been any other character or any other actor, I wouldn't have liked his subplot so much. Because I just, like I said earlier, I just felt that he was acting really stupid through most of the whole first half of the season. And I hate it when characters are stupid for no reason other than the plot demands it. Like, seriously, have you never seen a horror movie, kid? Like, what? But then he was so charming about it that I just loved it anyway. Because I remember season 1, again, Nancy going into that tree, through that tree and into the upside down. It bugged me so much, and it didn't even last as long as Dustin's subplot did this time around. But I'm like, why are you stupid? Why would you go in there? And it was the same thing with Dustin. It's like, why are you keeping that thing? It's going to eat your face. Squash it like a bug right now. And he kept it, and he kept feeding it, and it kept growing, and he kept getting more interested in it until he realized it was a freaking Demogorgon creature, and then it was too late already. So yeah, if it had been anybody else, I would have been really annoyed, but Justin was just so much fun about it that I just can't help but like it. And I loved his cursing. I loved love the cursing because it's so like kids that age to actually like want to curse because it makes them seem cooler. And he was so good, and he was traipsing through his house with like the baseball, like the hockey equipment and whatnot, and going shit, oh god. It was so great. It made me cackle hysterically every time. As far as Lucas goes, he was okay. I was glad to see a little bit of a softer side to him when dealing with, regular teenage issues. Sure, Lucas, it's okay when you're all over some girl, but when it's Mike doing it, it's a huge problem. Right, that makes total sense. Not hypocritical at all. He was okay. I liked him. I liked seeing a new side to him. The best part of Lucas's storyline, however, was his sister. Erica Sinclair for the win. That girl has won the internet this week. It's so great. As far as Max goes, I loved her. I love that she took no shit from those boys and even called them out on their crazy more than once, even though, eventually the crazy turned out to be true. But I wish we had seen a little bit more of her, like, home life and why she was the way she was, instead of just the show focusing on the love triangle thing with Lucas and Dustin or whatever. I wish we had seen more of her. What makes her tick, what makes her the way she is, what her history with her brother is. Maybe we will next season, I don't know. As far as Billy goes, he was pretty much this typical Stephen King bully. And Dacre was great. I really enjoyed that. He was terrifying and he was so intimidating. I really loved it. I just wish, again, that we had known a little bit more about him and why he is the way he is. Not like an excuse and not like a sub story, because I don't like sort of justificating psychos. I like them being psychos just because they are. But at least a reason, mainly because Max sort of hinted that he was the reason they moved in the first place. Is his attitude some sort of response to her father? Was he beaten as a child or something like that? I just want to know. As far as Murray goes, I like the conspiracy angle on him. I just enjoyed like his crazy murderer role and him going to Hopper like, it's Russia! Because it's so, it's so relevant these days when it feels like it's a new Cold War of some sort. But I thought his interaction with the teenagers was a little bit cartoonish though. Like, yes, it's great when they're thinking, theorizing on how to bring down the lab, but then all of a sudden he was like really interested in their relationship and giving them booze and telling them to sleep together, and I'm just like, where did that even come from? Like, I shipped Jonathan and Nancy and I wanted them to get together, but I don't know about this. It was kind of weird to me. As far as Callie goes, I loved her abilities. Like the scene with the butterfly, that was one of my favorite scenes of the season. And I love that now it seems confirmed that all the numbers, each of them has sort of a unique ability. They're not all the same, they're not all like L. That said, I did get really mad when she used that illusion of Brenner to manipulate L. You just don't do that to a poor child. It was a total asshole move. You're older, you should have known better, shame on you. So, I liked her, but then there were things about her that I didn't like. It would be interesting to see if they bring her back next season, how that relationship progresses. I don't know. As far as the relationships go, and I'm including in this both romantic and familiar relationships as well as friendship, I need to take a deep breath before I start talking about this. Mike and 11 broke me, you guys! God, seriously, I got so emotional whenever he thought about her and whenever she searched for him psychically. Like, my emotions were all over the place. Thank God I had Scooby with me. I don't know how I would have lived without him. I needed something to hug all the time. And that reunion, that fucking reunion scene, God, my feels, that was the best scene of the season. Best scene of the season. God, someone just stabbed me through the heart. Why don't you, duffers? God! Ugh! In all seriousness, I legitimately, when that scene came up, I legitimately had to hit pause and just like start pacing in front of my TV in the dark at 1 in the freaking morning for like 15 minutes just so I could go on and back to watching without bursting out into tears. It hit me so hard. What are these children doing to me? God! Also, we finally got to go to the snowball! My emotions! Oh God. I will protect these precious children with my life and pray for every bit of happiness and joy and warmth and love for them for the rest of their lives, because I need them to be happy. You guys, you just don't know how much I need those two to be happy. I'm dying. As far as Hopper and 11 goes, ha! I knew it! I'm psychic! I'm telling you guys, ask me the lottery numbers. I am psychic. Second off, I love them so fucking much. It hurts all over again. Like, seriously, they gave me so many feelings. Every time I think about them, I just want to, like, cry all over again. Even when they were not together. In 11's solo episode, when she was searching for them, like, psychically, and she was... When I realized that she wasn't just searching for Mike, she was searching for both of them. She was also checking in on Hopper, because she loves Hopper too, and they were their own little version of a family, and all of my feelings. I love them so much. And then the second season, in the entire season, that made me need to pause the video and pace, was when Owens hands Hopper the birth certificate, and it says Jade Hopper at the top. You can just barely make out the letters typed J-A in the space for father, and oh God, I'm just... I screamed. I legit screamed, and it was 3 in the fucking morning, and nobody was around, and I just couldn't help myself, and I just needed to scream because I was so emotional. I think my favorite were their arguments, though, because both Millie and David were so good, and I just love the whole thing so much. Like, oh, bless you, Duffers. I love you. I'm dead. As far as Jonathan and Nancy are concerned, I was really glad that they finally stopped being idiots and got together. I like that someone finally called them out on their bullshit, and that, you know, it kept keeping them apart, but it was just bullshit. It was in their heads. And I liked the scene itself when they actually hooked up. It was adorable, but I don't know, I wish Nancy hadn't cheated on Steve. I remember very clearly, I was sitting on my couch, and they kissed and they pulled back into the room, and I squealed, and then I turned to my brother's girlfriend like, I feel really bad for Steve now. Which is weird, because up until that point, I had not really liked Steve at all. Like, all that much, anyway. And, I mean, I know some people are taking it to mean that the argument at school was sort of their official breakup point, and I guess Steve probably sees it that way too, given that he wasn't completely pissed off later on. But, I don't know, I like things to be more well-defined, because it doesn't seem like Nancy or Jonathan to not think about the circumstances beforehand. And I don't want it to turn out to be that they just didn't think about the Steve thing because they were drunk. I don't want them to get together because they're drunk. I want them to get together because they love each other. And if, you know, dealing with the Steve issue is part of that, then I wanted to see that. Funny thing though, I was almost expecting Jonathan to back out completely after they got back because of Will. Because, you know, the fact that Will was possessed by an evil monster and Jonathan wasn't around to help because he was too busy sleeping with Nancy. I thought that was going to come into play, but then that might just be me having read too much fanfiction. I don't know. I'm glad they didn't go that route though, because adding more drama really wouldn't have worked out at that point, because it was very late in the season and everything was sort of coming together, so I don't think they wanted to open another new can of worms at that point, so I was okay with it. I do have to say about Steve and Nancy though, that I really appreciated that it wasn't, the breakup wasn't about Steve being a dick. I like that it wasn't one of those things where, like, I'm the good guy, or I win the breakup and you're the bad guy, or you lose the breakup. I like that it was legitimately because they just didn't agree on how to deal with certain things, namely the Barb issue. And it wasn't because Steve was a douche. He just handled his grief and his fear and his paranoia in a different way than Nancy did, and those two ways just didn't mesh well, and so it just, they were incompatible in that sense. I really like that because it means that, well, cheating notwithstanding, I guess, it means that Steve actually walks away from the relationship seeming like a great guy. Like, it was just, they weren't compatible. It wasn't that one hurt the other or anything. It's just things were in the way, and Nancy just couldn't love him because of that sort of difference, because this was such a huge thing to her, and Steve just wanted to move on, and sometimes things just don't work out. Sometimes you see things differently, and it doesn't mean that you're bad people, it just means that you're not right for each other, and that's okay. So I enjoyed that. As far as Max and the boys goes, intellectually speaking, I understand why Max chose Lucas. I mean, Dustin was just sort of elsewhere, dealing with his own subplot for most of the time. And plus, later on when he tried again, there was the whole Steve thing, and why the hell are you taking romantic advice from Steve? For fuck's sake, Dustin, come on. And he pushed her away, while Lucas was the one who was actually around. He actually listened to what she wanted, and what she wanted was to be included, and so he put himself in a vulnerable position for once to give that to her, that feeling of being included and being part of the group. So intellectually, I understand. And of course, they also really wanted to have that Dustin scene at the end in the snowball. I guess they were trying to go for like a ducky thing from like Pretty in Pink and stuff. So I can understand why. I just didn't feel like Lucas and Max had all that much chemistry. I don't know. I felt like she had more chemistry with Dustin. This could be because Dustin was the one who spoke the most. Like at the beginning of the season when they were like introducing themselves to her and asking her to come with them for Halloween and stuff, like Dustin was the one doing all the talking, and Lucas was just sort of standing there staring at her. So I always felt that she had more chemistry with Dustin, and I was sort of sad to see that it didn't go that route. But you know, either way, I would have preferred that she had chosen neither of the boys. Like, why did she have to choose? She just came to town, for fuck's sake. Can't you just like let her make some friends before you actually make her the love interest? I wish that hadn't happened. And you know, if there's one thing that I wish comes out of like Lucas and Max being together, I guess, is that it doesn't become like a serious relationship. That it's more one of those things where kids, you know, they flirt, they hook up, and then they break up like 2 weeks later, and it's fine, and they're friends. You know, that sort of thing I would like to see. Mainly because they're very young, and I don't feel like any of them really should be in a serious relationship of any kind, except Mike and Eleven, because they're a special case. But Lucas and Max are not like Mike and Eleven. So I don't know. I would hope that it's not like, oh, you're gonna be my boyfriend forever. Just no. I mean, I don't mind that they got together. I just don't think they're kind of the permanent type. I don't know. I guess we'll see more of that in season 3, possibly. As far as the whole 11 Max thing, I didn't want it to happen. I really didn't want it to happen. And it's funny because it sort of happened a little bit. Because 11 did get jealous of Max that one time. But then when I saw it happen, I actually really loved it. What is wrong with me? Like, I'm telling you, those two broke me. Mike and 11 broke me. Like, everything they do is wonderful and perfect, and I don't even know anymore. I didn't even mind the scene. It does bug me that neither of them sort of apologized to Max. Like, 11 was snubbing her in the last episode, which felt really weird. I wish we could have seen them, like, apologize and become friends. But hey, that's what fanfic is for, I guess. The whole thing with Mike not wanting Max to join the party because no one could ever replace 11, that was like sort of the first stab at my heart that I felt this season gave me. And it actually happened a couple of days previous to me watching the season because I read about it in an article somewhere, and it's just fucking broke me! Those two have broken me! It's not fair! Oh, these kids are gonna be the death of me, I swear to God. How? It's not fair. So, Bob and Joyce, we're cute. Hopper and Joyce need to get on with it before I go insane. I'm just saying. Like, Hopper's pining for her was so completely adorable though. Guys! Oh! And also, for season 3, I need 11 to comment on this at some point. Thank you very much. Like, I just need her to, like, tease Hopper about being in love with Joyce, because it was so adorable! I love them so much, and I need them to get together already! Then there's Mike and Will. I wanted to see their friendship. I've said this 1,000 times. It was one of the things from season 1 that really stuck with me, that I feel like Mike and Will would have this rapport of being able to tell each other things that maybe they wouldn't be able to tell the others. And I was so happy that Mike was there for Will through all of this. That said, you cannot convince me that Will isn't totally in love with Michael. Like, I don't ship them, and Mike and 11 are OTP forever and ever, but every time Will looks at Mike, I just see so much love in his gaze that I can't help but think that there's an unrequited thing just going on in there. And I don't want it to turn into a love triangle. Again, I said I don't like love triangles between the kids, but it could be a good first step for, like, Will to have this LGBT discovery storyline in the future. I think it would be very relevant because this is the 80s. We're basically at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and there's all sorts of misconceptions about gay people, and I think it would be important. I think it would be very ballsy, and I think we've seen a lot of that from Will. Just hints that he might be gay and hints that he might have feelings for Mike. I wish they will go down that route in the future. I don't know, it's just the feeling I got, but more than anything, I just adored that Will and Mike got the chance to actually have the relationship that I was hoping to see from them. I think they can be such close friends, and I love them. I love that. As far as stuff like negatives and loose ends and speculation, few questions I still have. Why did the monster wait so long to reveal itself? Like, why did it take until Halloween? It was a year in the making. Why did it take so long for the Upside Down to start affecting crops, for example? It seemed very convenient that it just so happened on the day before Halloween. You know what I mean? Because even the farmer himself said, like, now that it's Halloween and the sales are going up, now this happened. So it happened fairly recently, and it seemed a little bit too convenient that the Upside Down just sort of waited a year to, start doing visible damage. And speaking of, if Dart was supposed to be the slug that Will coughed up in the season 1 finale, why did it take a whole year for it to be found? And then, like, 3 days for it to go from, like, tadpole to fully grown mutant predator. Like, is Dustin's nougat magic or something? Like, wouldn't it have grown through the whole year? That was confusing for me. Also, am I supposed to assume that the Demodogs and the Demogorgon are the same species? Like, am I supposed to assume that with enough time these Demodogs would have grown into Demogorgons? Or should I just think that they're two different species even though they have the exact same head? I would have liked to know that. I still thought the Demodogs were cool, so whatever. There's a story that Mike tells Will when they're trying to get the monster to communicate. When they're trying to get him to tell them how to kill the monster. Mike tells him about the first day of kindergarten and how he was all alone until he saw Will in the swings and asked him if he wanted to be his friend, and Will said yes, and that was the beginning of the friendship. And it was a lovely story. Like I said, I love Mike and Will's friendship, but was that a continuity error? Like, where was Lucas? Because last season we learned that Lucas is Mike's oldest friend, so he already knew Lucas when he was in kindergarten. Why was he there? Why was he not there that day? Like, what happened? I feel like it's a continuity error, but it's one that is kind of easy to dodge, I guess. If you're writing fanfiction, you just say that Lucas was, like, in summer camp or something, and it went a little too long or whatever. It's easy, I just wish the Duffers had been a little bit better about, stating out that stuff. And what was up with Callie's gang? Like, she said that they were together because they were looking for people from the lab who had ruined their lives so they could take their revenge. But does that mean that all of them were also numbers? Like, they didn't have any power, so I assume they were not. But then how did they relate to the lab? Or did they not relate to the lab at all and they were just on some revenge quest of their own and Callie was just conflating it all into a lab thing? It was never really that clear to me. I guess I just have to watch that episode again. I'm watching the series again this week, one by one this time around, and I'm only on episode 2, so I haven't really gotten to that point yet, but I really want to know. Maybe I missed something, I don't know. So yeah, my only negatives when it comes to this season were, of course, the fact that Mike didn't get much to do at the beginning, Nancy cheating on Steve, the lack of chemistry between Lucas and Max, and just Max having to choose between the boys as well. But there's something that also bothered me, and it's, what the hell happened to Karen? Like, they completely sidelined her and made her into such like a vapid real housewife of the suburbs instead of the awesome mother that she was in season 1. And it made me so mad. Like, why was she so hands off? Why was she not worried? Her kids weren't home for like 3 days by the time the last episode rolled around. Like, what's wrong with her? Why is she so hands off recently? That's so weird. Also, I did not like the bit in the last scene, in the snowball scene, when there's this girl that comes up to Will and asks him to dance, and he goes, he gets pushed by Mike, I guess, but he goes to dance with her, and I just felt that was so heteronormative, especially after all the hints we've gotten that Will might be gay. And I understand that he's really young and he might not even understand his own feelings, his own sexual orientation. Plus, it's the 80s, so of course, even if he knew at 13, even if he knew, he probably wouldn't breathe a word because of the stigma. But I just found that bit to really suck. Not just for Will, although, it did suck for Will, because come on, she called him Zombie Boy! Like, how is that ever conducive to him wanting to dance with her? Like, if they were going to force Will to dance with a girl, it could at least be a nice girl. Why would she call him Zombie Boy? That's not a nice thing. But the thing about the scene is that it was also kind of sucky for Dustin, though, because then Dustin's going around and none of the girls want to dance with him. Oh, but one wanted to dance with Zombie Boy? Like, come on now. Seriously, it seemed so out of the blue and so unnecessary. I do hope that the show eventually has the balls to pursue some kind of LGBT subplot. I was hoping for some of that with like Callie's gang or whatever. Like, I was hoping that 2 of the girls would be together or something like that. It didn't happen. Even if it's not with Will, I just want something like that to be mentioned, because I think it was a big deal in the 80s and it's important to bring it up. It's very relevant even now. Although really, I feel like it should be with Will. It doesn't have to be with Mike. Like, I don't mind if it turns out that Will is not in love with Mike and he just falls in love with someone else or whatever. But I want them to go down that route with Will because it's very relevant. And come on, Noah is so good. He would make it amazing. I'm so certain of it. I really hope that they have the balls to go down that route. As far as the ending goes, there weren't many like leftover threads this time around, which I didn't mind because I wanted the season to end on a happy note for my precious babies. They deserve to be happy, and I really was glad to see that. But at the same time, it also leaves like very little room for speculation, so that kind of sucks. I mean, in season 1 we had all these unexplained things still happening with Will and with Eleven and tons of stuff. So it does kind of suck a bit that everything was so clear cut at the end of the season, although we still have the monster sort of hanging over the gym. So we know that the monster will come back in some way. My questions that I have left is, well, what happens now that the lab is closed? Like, are they going to just deal directly with the Upside Down and the monster without any sort of government interference? Like, is that where they're going? Like, are we scrapping the government's part on this altogether? Also, was Dustin infected by the spores? Because he had that one time. And Hopper, too. Like, could either of them become, like, the focus of the next main plot? I don't know if Callie will be back. I fully expect, however, that season 3 will delve deeper into the previous numbers and their powers and their different abilities, and I don't know, maybe more of them will come to Hawkins, or maybe someone will go search for them, but I really do expect it to come back, because otherwise there's really no reason for them to show us Callie this time around. And I think it's very important to know there's 11, there's 8, there's 9 more that are out there somewhere, possibly. So I really want to see them, and I really want to see what they're up to and how they fit in with this whole thing. What I really want to see in season 3, though, I want Will to develop some kind of residual psychic powers from his possession by the Mind Flayer. Like, some kind of power that he can use, like 11 can use hers, like the lab test subjects can use theirs. And, I mean, guys, Will and 11 psychic team up. Yes, I mean, come on, who wouldn't want that? I think the biggest question I was left with after the season was over, though, was, is Brenner alive? I'm dying here, I need to know, they can't do this to me. Holy shit, that guy might still be out there. What? In conclusion, the Duffers gave me 4 out of 4 of my must-haves this season, and it's just amazing new characters and incredible subplots and such great interactions between my favorite characters that I love, and just, oh god, they absolutely destroyed me! And these subplots that once again converged in a way that just blows my mind. I adored it in season 1, I adored it here, so as far as I'm concerned, this season was about as close as perfection as a sequel can get. Naysayers can bite me. I don't care. I loved it. The first season I loved because of nostalgia and because it transported me back to the 80s, but this plot was better. This season was better. The development was better. The interaction between the characters was better. And, I mean, I wouldn't say that 2 is better than 1 because I like them both for different things, but objectively speaking, in terms of successfully pulling off a plot, a really complicated plot with characters that inspire you and that evolve and that stay deep in your heart even though they're new, this season was extremely successful. I loved it. I will be rewatching it over and over again. I'm sure as I do, I will come back and make more videos about it because I'm just really excited that it finally came out, and I really loved it. I can't wait for season 3. I'm aware that it might take a while because I think it's still being written. I don't think they're going to go into production until at least late 2018, or who knows, maybe summer. But I definitely don't think season 3 is going to come out in 2018. I think more likely we'll see it early 2019. I don't know what that does to the timeline though. Are they going to skip a year? I hope they are. I hope they don't skip more than a year because I need them to actually have a season in 1985, because 1985 was the year I was born, and I need to be able to point at my TV and say, hey, I'm alive right now. I'm alive when these characters are alive, and that is awesome. So and also, 1985 was an amazing year for movies. So I can only imagine the references. I want them to do a 1985 season, even if in real life it comes out like a year and a half later. So, it's gonna be torture just to wait for like a year and a half for the next one. I know. Like last time I only had to wait a year because I watched it late. Now I'm gonna get the full impact of the hiatus. It's going to be torture. But I'm really glad that we're getting a season 3. I can't wait to see where they take this. Hopefully we'll get to learn more stuff about it in the future. And I will be coming back to do videos on Stranger Things every time there's anything new, so stay tuned for that. And I've been talking for way too long already, so I'm gonna shut up now and just say, please go in the comments and let me know what you thought about Stranger Things 2, what your favorite parts were, what the things that you didn't like were. Just let me know. I actually feel really vindicated because I feel like a lot of my predictions came true. Like, not the dumb stuff, although there was some of it that I actually got right, but like, for example, I knew that Lucas and Mike were arguing about something in that one scene in the trailer. I remember with the Ghostbusters uniforms. That was funny. I love that scene. But I feel like I got the majority of the big stuff actually correct, like the Hopper thing and just the fact that 11 was going to be hidden from the others for like most of the season. Stuff like that I really enjoyed. I feel like I got it correct, and I feel very, very proud of myself for that because I'm never good at speculation. So what do you guys think will happen in season 3? Let me know in a comment and we'll discuss. Also, while you're at it, if you have any ideas of any topics that you want me to talk about in the future, be it anything geeky, like books, movies, TV, any sort of stuff like that, please put it in a comment and let me know. And if it's anything that I'm knowledgeable about, I'll be sure to add it to my list of videos to make in the future. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel below. I'm always happy to see people commenting and sharing and liking and subscribing. I really adore interacting with you guys, so please keep going at it. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsoweird with underscores between the words, and I am on Tumblr at girlsoweird with hyphens between the words. You can actually see all my reactions to one specific scene of the season. My favorite scene of the season, I mentioned it earlier. If you want to see my reaction to that, not in video, but like me texting everybody I knew about how much I was dying just because of that one scene, it's in all my social media accounts, so probably Instagram the better one to check it out. But it's really hysterical. I was freaking out, you have no idea. There's also a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia, and as usual, you can visit my main website at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there in case you missed any and you want to catch up. All you have to do is go to FreakingNarnia.com and it will be there. Also, remember that I have a Redbubble store where I make art based on my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms, and then you can use that art to print on tons of merchandise such as t-shirts, coffee cups, bags, computer covers, all sorts of cool stuff in there for you to do. There's some Stranger Things in there, and I also plan on adding a few quotes from season 2 that I really, really loved. So stay tuned for that. Visit and maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. It really does help me. That's about it for me today. I will see you guys next week with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. You know, if I get back from the dead, because Mike gonna let me kill me. Bye. Voodoo, dark magic, crazy sorcery, as close as humanly possible, and telling my hanging out. It was straight out of an X-Men cartoon. How's celibacy? How's celibacy?